Pokemon speedrunning has a lot of bad fights. Fights that can totally derail runs, crush dreams, make people quit the game, and generally ruin your day. But across the early generations, there's an odd consistency. One fight in each game that seems to always cause problems and be a massive hurdle to get over. A fight that requires tense strategy and good luck to win. I'm of course talking about Rival 2. Speedrunners, cover your eyes and ears. I'm about to dive into the stuff of your obscene nightmares. In case you are unaware, Rival 2 refers to any fight in a Pokemon game where you fight your rival for the second time. In Red and Blue, this is in Cerulean City, just below Nugget Bridge. In Pokémon Crystal, this is in Azalea Town before you enter Elex Forest. In Pokémon Emerald, this is on Route 110, below Cycling Road. The speedrun context for Red, Crystal, and Emerald is that you use the starter for most of the game, including the Rival 2 fight, and thus are vulnerable to the type advantage that the rival's starter has over your own. Also, this fight usually takes place after you get 1 or 2 gym badges, meaning your starter and their starter have both evolved, and probably learned a stronger move of their type. This means that your rival's starter has much better stats than the first fight, and a mid-power move that gets the 50% same type attack bonus. Grovyle still has Absorb, a really weak grass move, but we'll get into that later. The other complication is that most speedruns use a single Pokemon for most of the game, be it Nidoking in Red, Croconaw in Crystal, or Marshtomp in Emerald. In other words, you do not catch and use a team of 6 Pokemon, just the one. Also, most rivals at Fight 2 have between 3 and 4 Pokemon, which, type advantages aside, can do other things to complicate the fight with moves that drop your stats, cause status conditions, or prevent you from setting up using X items. These fights take place at a point in the game where you are not yet over-leveled, and thus cannot drop these extra Pokemon in one hit, allowing them precious time to use status moves. Starting with Generation 1, let's look at the specifics of what makes each Rival 2 fight so deadly in speedruns of each game. Pokémon Red. From what I understand, Red is a lot faster than Blue for the any percent glitch-less category, so that is what we are talking about. Despite what I just said about using the starter Pokemon all the way through, Red actually uses Nidoking for most of the game. For a number of reasons specific to Generation 1, Nidoking is uniquely powerful. This Rival 2 is also probably the easiest of the fights we will discuss today, but it still has the potential to absolutely derail a well-paced run. The real risk is the opener, Pidgeotto. It has Gust, Quick Attack, and Sand Attack. The runner's Nidoking here has Mega Punch, Horn Attack, Water Gun, and Poison Sting. A great moveset that it can take great advantage of. Horn Attack is the preferred and fastest way to knock out Pidgeotto because of the threat of Sand Attack. Mega Punch is stronger but inaccurate, and Water Gun and Poison Sting are too weak to kill it quickly. A risk in all Generation 1 fights, but compounded by the Sand Attack risk, is that due to a programming error, all attacks in Generation 1 have a 1 in 256 chance to miss, even if they are technically 100% accurate. Horn Attack, not accounting for any critical hits, usually takes 3 turns to knock out the Pidgeotto. The problem here is that gives the Pidgeotto 3 opportunities to use Sand Attack and lower your accuracy, making the remaining 3 Pokemon a problem. Any number of Sand Attacks essentially reduces the rest of the fight to luck about whether you miss or not. There's relatively limited risk of actually dying in this fight, but it has the potential to cost you minutes due to missed attacks and being forced to heal after attacks from Rattata, which packs a decent punch with Tail Whip and Stab Hyper Fang. Compounded with the 1 in 256 chance to miss any attack, Sand Attack is a massive threat to your new personal best. Moving quickly on to a much worse Rival 2 fight, Pokémon Crystal's Rival 2. To quote current world record holder Wave Warrior, this is the split where, quote, all good runs go to die, and all bad runs go to die. The split as a whole is bad, but the start of the split is the Rival 2 fight, and it really is just that terrible. The fastest route at this moment uses Totodile, which has evolved into Croconaw by this point in the run. In Azalea Town, you can fight the rival as soon as you arrive, but due to its difficulty and risk, runners leave it to the very last opportunity. This enables Totodile to evolve into Croconaw, and the player to get Fury Cutter from Bugsy. This rival has a Ghastly, a Zubat, and a Bayleaf. Let's start from the beginning. The rival opens with Ghastly, level 12. Without a crit, the Ghastly goes down to 2 water guns, meaning it has 1 turn to use a move. In that 1 turn, it could use Spite, Lick, or Hypnosis. Spite, for the sake of getting through the fight, is the best option, because both Lick and Hypnosis are terrible. If it uses Hypnosis and hits, you fall asleep and cannot attack. The fastest routes here skip picking up the full heal and do not buy awakenings, so you cannot heal the sleep. If you wake up first turn, that's great, but that requires a lot of luck. Alternatively, Ghastly can use Lick. Lick deals very little damage to your Croconaw, but has a 30% chance to paralyze you. You can heal this paralysis, since the route buys paralyze heals, but you are then at risk of either being hit by Hypnosis or licked again and paralyzed again. This creates the potential for a healing loop that drains precious time away from your run. Sleep can take up to 6 turns in Generation 2, which means you could then take multiple turns of damage from Lick, which is HP you cannot afford to lose for the Bayleaf. I need to stress this, these are just the things that can go wrong on the first Pokemon of 3 in this fight. Okay, let's say you hit your 2 water guns and knock out the Ghastly with 0 problems, even with a Spite, so you're at full HP. That's optimal and you're feeling good. Out comes the Bayleaf. Bayleaf has 80 special defense and 80 defense, which for a level 16 Pokemon is absolutely massive. It is a total wall. These defenses mean that the player is effectively locked into one strategy to beat this fight quickly. Bayleaf knows Reflect, Poison Powder, Razor Leaf, and Growl. There is no smoke and mirrors here, the threat is Razor Leaf. Accounting for the type advantage and the same type attack bonus, it is 165 power. It has a high critical hit ratio, meaning it has a 1 in 8 chance to critical hit. That's a 1 in 8 chance for your run to die then and there, after you already potentially had to deal with Hypnosis and Lick paralysis from Ghastly. Razor Leaf crits are a big problem. A high roll critical hit will kill your run. Damage rolls, for those who are unaware, is a way for the games to calculate a random element to damage. When you attack, the game calculates the damage, then rolls a randomly generated number between 85 and 100. This is the roll calculation. What this means is that the damage you deal can be 85% of the maximum damage. A low roll would be when the random number is closer to 85, and a high roll would be when the number is something closer to 100. If you lost too much HP to Lick, and Bayleaf gets a critical hit and gets a high roll on the range, you will die, and so will your hopes and dreams. It is truly crushing to see someone on PB pace watch their entire health bar drain in one hit. Killing the Bayleaf, accounting for no critical hits, takes at least 3 turns with Fury Cutter. It's plausible that it uses Poison Powder, a 75% accuracy move, 3 times and misses each time. It can use Reflects, which you would think would matter, but Fury Cutter steamrolls it anyway. Growl is bad and has the potential to make it a 4-turn kill with low roll Fury Cutter hits. There is one other variable here that can kill your run, Fury Cutter itself. Even if the Bayleaf spends 3 turns missing Poison Powders, Fury Cutter can end the run there and then. The gimmick with Fury Cutter is that it gains power on each successive hit. This is balanced by it being a 95% accurate move. If you miss a Fury Cutter, you will in all likelihood die and your good run is over. It's 95% accurate. Surely it'll just hit, right? Wrong. It can and it will miss at the most unfortunate time. Okay, let's say you get through the Bayleaf and you think that the nightmare is over, and the last Pokemon is a Zubat. That's easy compared to what you just went through in terms of chances. Without crits, Zubat takes at least 2 water guns to kill. In that 1 turn that it gets, it can use Supersonic to confuse you. This is the last straw. It is totally possible to get past the Bayleaf with about half HP, and then get supersonicked and die by hitting yourself in confusion 2 or 3 times. This is probably the most heartbreaking way for the fight to go. I might also add that this would be the slowest way to lose. Bayleaf killing you with a Razor Leaf crit is at least relatively quick, but dying to confusion hits another 2 to 4 turns afterwards is about as slow as it gets for not beating the fight. The Crystal Rival 2 fight is a goddamn nightmare. Emerald's Rival 2 is just as bad. Emerald's Rival fight is again the terror of the starter matchups, but with the added bonus of Marshtomp being a water and ground type instead of just water. This means that the rival's Grovyle using Absorb is base 120 power, accounting for the same type attack bonus and super effective damage, and it really hurts. Now, the fight is routed in a very specific and optimized way, which is great. Slugma comes out first, and though it knows Rock Throw and Smog, it will never use them, instead alternating between Yawn and Ember. For the most part, this is okay, because you need to set up 2 X attacks and 1 speed anyway, and ensure that you have decent HP before KOing Slugma with Mud Slap. It can slow you down quite a bit with long sleep times, and if you get burned, you must heal it to have any shot at killing the Grovyle. Now, the Grovyle. It's worth mentioning that the rival has what is called Kill AI, meaning that if it calculates that it can kill you, it will kill you, and it will otherwise pick the move that does the most damage. In this case, it will go straight for Absorb. The Minipt Marshtomp that runners use for this run has great stats, and even then, Absorb will always delete about half your HP, ranging between 30 and 36. If Slugma hit you with too many Embers, and Absorb knocks you below 10 HP, it will kill you with Quick Attack. If it crits you with Absorb, you die. Unlike Crystal's Rival 2, there is only one path to victory, and if you do not follow it, you will fail. If you do not have the X attacks, you cannot win. A further variable here is that, like the Crystal fight, the fight relies on mildly inaccurate moves. You hit Grovyle with Mudshot and then Tackle, both of which are 95% accurate. If you miss either of these moves, you will die. You need to hit the Wingull with Tackle, and if it misses and then crits you, you will die. You don't one-shot it either, but you can chip it with Water Gun at the end for accuracy safety. The Wingull also has Supersonic, which it can use given the chance, which is just awful considering how bad it is to get to this point. It's a bad fight. One interesting thing to note with all of these fights is that they all have the potential to just go totally fine and have no issues. In Generation 2, it's possible and even plausible for the fight to be damageless, and you slide right past them with no issues. If you look at the runs at the top of the leaderboard, you would likely see smooth rival fights that look clean and easy. That's because all of these games are highly optimized and competitive runs with great times. The top times obviously do not show the hours and hours of lost runs to bad rival fights, the tragic defeats that have caused controllers to be hurled across the room. The second notable commonality with these Rival 2 fights is that the main threat is usually the rival starter, but their other Pokemon have huge potential to cause problems as well. In both Crystal and Emerald, a well-timed Supersonic after the starter has gone down can still derail your fight, especially if you already had to use your full heal in the opener. The last notable commonality is that inaccurate moves make these fights much worse. The main attacking moves in Crystal and Emerald, Fury Cutter and Mudshot, are both 95% accurate moves. In either case, if you miss once, you will likely die. So on top of all of the chances for the opener to status you in bad ways, you can get to the starter and still die because of a 5% chance. And believe me, it will happen. That's not to say anything of the fight in Pokémon Red where the main problem is the accuracy of the moves. These fights are bad, and they have killed many good-paced runs over the years. To prolong the suffering, let's have a look at how the fights have been translated in their respective remakes. In Fire Red and Leaf Green, the basic threat of Sand Attack is still there, but with the mechanical changes, Pidgeotto only really has one turn to get off an attack, and thus the threat of serious accuracy reductions is minimized. This already wasn't the worst fight of the three, but it's even less so here. Also, the route in Fire Red and Leaf Green uses Squirtle and fights Misty first, meaning you have both evolved into Wartortle and are at a much higher level going into the fight, which makes things quite a bit easier. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, the dynamics are much different again. The route here uses Quilava instead, meaning that the rival has Croconaw. The Ghastly can still cause problems, and notably it now has Curse and Mean Look, but it dies to 2 Embers or a high roll single Ember, so it can get maximum 1 move off. It still has Lick, which can certainly cause some problems, but it's hardly as bad as Lick and Hypnosis. Croconaw is much less of a threat than Bayleaf, as Water Gun is its main water type attack, which is 15 power weaker than Razor Leaf, and it has a regular critical hit ratio, not a heightened one. The rival here also does not have smart enough AI to always use Water Gun, and may use Rage or Scary Face instead. Still, the Croc is bulky, and Quilava has no moves that can take it down easily. The strategy here relies on leering twice to lower its defense, then quick attacking until it dies, usually in 3 to 4 hits. However, Water Gun only does about 2/5 of Quilava's total HP, meaning hitting and healing is a viable strategy. One last complexity is that Zubat has Astonish, Bite, and Supersonic, and it won't die to 1 quick attack. If the Zubat comes out and you are on low HP, a crit will kill you. Most likely Croconaw used Scary Face while it was out, since it gets upwards of 7 turns to attack you, so the Zubat outspeeds you and won't die in 1 hit. However, you can play it safe and heal your way out for this one. Flinches from both Bite and Astonish are a risk, but you could heal and only lose 1 turn to make it a safe escape. It's not as bad as in Crystal, but it is still pretty harsh at times. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, the dynamics are different again. Grovyle is actually more of a menace than before, now sporting Mega Drain instead of Absorb, but routing changes make this a much better fight than it was previously. The strategy here is still to set up a lot on the Slugma, who can still burn you, but this time you are setting up X special attacks, and thus the burn does not affect how much damage you can deal. You can also set up enough X speeds so that the Grovyle does not get a move off, meaning that there is a lower risk of dying to critical hits from Mega Drain, which would guaranteed kill you in 1 hit. The move of choice is Echoed Voice, which is 100% accurate and gains power with successive uses. You use it to kill Slugma in 2 hits, meaning it is at a base 120 power when you use it on Grovyle, and coupled with the special attack boosts, takes it down in 1 hit. The third Pokemon is Wailmer, which also goes down in 1 hit to the now 160 power Echoed Voice. This fight is not nearly as bad as in Gen 3, even if the Grovyle is even more lethal given the chance. So there you have it. Rival 2 in the first 3 generations of games is a lethal fight for speedruns, but gets nerfed inadvertently by mechanical changes in each remake. Let me know if you have had nightmare losses against any of these fights, and thanks for watching.